Hey, 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 thank you for joining me. Welcome back to Colorless Oranges, where I share my experiences to help better yours. I'm your host, Sydney Hyatt, and today we're talking self-discipline. I feel that a lot of our conversation has to do with self-discipline, self-growth, self-improvement, and I think one of the biggest ways to improve on oneself is through self-discipline. I don't know how a lot of people work. I need step by step exactly what it is that I am going to be doing, my goal, and how I'm going to get there. I do leave a little bit of gray area because there's things that happen, but when I have a plan and I want to do something, I have like step for step of how it's going to get done. A lot of the times I do it simultaneously too. It's not just like, oh, wake up, da-da-da. No, it's like, I need this one part, I need this part. Like I have a little bit of a thing. And I think that kind of hinders me a little bit sometimes too, because if certain things don't follow that path, like it's hard for me to see and go a different way. Like how we were talking about last week, I was stuck between a rock and a hard place is because say I wanted to go to yoga and I don't have a car. It's like, okay, well, what do I do now? Can't ask anybody for their car. What do I do in that instance? And when I took myself out of like those steps, I was still able to get the goal done. So it really just matters, like, what are you trying to get at? Like, is it that you enjoy driving and you kind of want to have a destination and your destination is yoga? So then that is a different thing. We got to work on getting the car. How so? You know, either save up your money, walk in front of a bus. I don't know. Do what you got to do. You know what I mean? A recent topic that has been on my agenda as of lately, because I am trying to find my voice, find a way to feel fulfilled in not only one aspect of my life, but get that feeling in everything that I do. I realized I try my hardest not to do something to offend someone else. In the process of doing that, Sydney's voice has disappeared. Okay. I realized a lot of those people, you know, getting down to the bones of everything, those people could either be jealous, could be having your good intentions, or possibly hate the fact that you are so authentic, you are so yourself, you are so self-aware, and they do not have that. My favorite people, like I say, are very outspoken, are very, you know, driven and know what they're doing, and they talk how they want to, they act how they want to, and those things inspire me. But I could see somebody else not liking those people because it might seem a little bit too out there, a little bit outlandish, like a little bit too much. And I think that, you know, when you're proud of who you are, there will always be somebody to be out there to make you feel less. And even today, actually, I guess I was trolling. I don't know. I thought it was like a joke. I never really have any issues on my live. When I go on live on TikTok, I hardly ever have anyone, you know, come at me or say anything like negative or disrespectful, like ever. Turns out though, today, none of my mods were there. If you don't know what a mod is, they're a moderator. They're the ones who like keep the community safe and, you know, keep a good environment as you are creating the content and stuff like that. None of them were there today. So it was just me versus the wolves, which is fine because, you know, but it is what it is. Somebody just kept attacking. And I'm just like, wow, like your presence can really bother other people's demons. And I use the word demons is because like that's what we kind of see it as, like other people's like negativeness to them, their like deep shadow side, you know. I kind of see that sometimes people have a block, and when you show up as who you are, you can aggravate them. I get aggravated by certain people sometimes, but I look inward and it's usually either I have like expectations for that person or there's something in me that is kind of like being mirrored by that person in just a different way. I heard the other day something about how not a lot of people understand like how the mirrors work and stuff like that, and like how do you stop these cycles of constantly getting reflected back something that you don't like. You know, you look at yourself in the mirror, right? Let's say you have an abandonment issue. Now this person that is coming into your life is showing you that you have that abandonment issue. They also have that abandonment issue, but the way that they're doing it and the way that they're going about it is the complete opposite to you. So you might be somebody who's very quiet and they might be somebody who's like super loud about it. Like, you know, you guys have the same issue, but it's being mirrored through different actions. And I love that too, because I feel that that's what all relationships are for. They're all for self-growth and self-improvement. And I think that once I saw it in that way, a lot of things and a lot of people leaving my life didn't hurt me as much. You know, certain people taught me to not have attachments. Certain people taught me that I had emotional triggers. Some, you know, like there's always a lesson with a person that comes into your life. And that's what I mean, that like, if you're not adding anything to my life, I don't need to have you in it. I don't need a journal as a person. I don't need resources all the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's very, we all have a purpose in each other's lives. And if it was to bump heads and for you to realize like you have an issue, there it is. And if it was to show you that this is what happens to you if you stay where you were before, then there's that point, you know? Let's say you're in a relationship and you lose someone. A relationship could be with your friend, any relationship. Let's say you are going through a breakup in this relationship. I know that the pain makes it so difficult to see exactly what it is that you need to. It makes it hard to process. And while that is extremely difficult, I think there's always a good side. So piggybacking off of last week's episode of how we need to change our perspective, I think when it comes to self-discipline, it is far easier doing the things that we want when we have our own perspective on these things that are in alignment for us, to our best. If you are constantly looking at the gym as being a chore and stuff like that, you're never going to go. If you look at cooking food as a chore, you're never going to make good appetizing food. I think also we see that when we fall, I know me, for example, I fall, I stumble, I'm somewhere and things aren't going like the way that I wanted them to go or how I expected them to go. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing the right thing. But I've come to the conclusion that there is no right or wrong thing. And I know that's so basic to say, but it's really what you make it, right? Your perspective is how and what shapes each situation. While knowing that, my actions can still differ. You know, sometimes, before I had like these solidifying beliefs and morals, I would think badly. I would think in a negative way. I would think about the mishappenings in my life to be like, I did something wrong. But I think that is the purpose of life. I think it is to fall and know how to pick yourself back up. If we were all just to be coasting and happy, it would just be mundane. It would be the same thing all the time. So I look forward to those things as well as I look forward to the positives. And I hate using those terms. It's like, you know, when people say like, oh, go make money, go get up and get some money or whatever. We're talking in currency wise and what everybody can understand. But it's truly to do the things that fulfill you. And once I started seeing things as like, what is going to fulfill me? What is going to give me that like positive serotonin, you know, not just like what sugar does to your cortisol. It's been a weight lifted off of my shoulders. I am able to go through things much clearly. I'm able to sit with things that make me uncomfortable or whatever in a positive light. You know, it's more white than it is dark. I thought before that things would hurt me a lot deeper than they actually did. And I kept going through similar cycles over and over. Obviously, because I didn't learn my lesson the first time. I think this time, you know, I'm a little bit more agile, more like I know what's happening. Even when I did know what was happening, I still wanted what was to come, what I believed was to come, like the big, nice, happy ending in certain things. And that just wasn't the path for me. Finding self-discipline for myself has been to be consistent. The self-discipline and consistency, those were the goals, okay? Holding yourself accountable, holding others accountable is, I think, the most important part of all of it. Knowing that you had the opportunity to do X, Y, and Z and you chose not to is a part of self-discipline. I think, you know, taking accountability. Like I said in last week's episode, wherever we've put ourselves in these places. We've done these things to ourselves. If it hurts to realize, you know, the accountability, then you're doing a good job. If it hurts to see that you've done something wrong, that's what growth is. After last week's episode, a lot of people asked me to talk about forgiveness. And there was this one story actually, which I won't share on here because I don't know how that person feels about it. But I don't know. I think sometimes we just don't have morals. I think sometimes that we expect certain things and we have like this facade in our minds, and I don't know. There's just certain things that fly by us. I think forgiveness is also another part to self-discipline. Forgiving yourself for putting yourself in those situations. You know, after being accountable comes forgiveness. If you feel like you have messed up in something or you could have done something a different way, you have those lessons now. You can move forward and figure out what is best for you and that other person or whatever that other situation was. I think forgiveness can put us very far. It can get us anywhere that we need to be. You know, it clarifies things for us. It's clarifying what the actual situation is, you know, get clarity, understanding what went wrong, or however you want to put it. I don't really like using the word wrong or right because I can justify anything. I can make anything seem like anything else. So I don't think that that is a positive word. Keep it in terms that we all understand. I'll keep using the words right or wrong. I think we get clear on what our goals are, why we haven't got there. If you're hung up on that, you know, forgive yourself for it, because what are you going to do? Like, stay stuck on it? Not move anywhere? And a lot of the times, I think there's just a miscommunication in the things that we're actually asking for. I think sometimes we can say we want a specific thing, and it's usually something else. In my case, I've asked for stability so many times in my life. I've prayed for stability so much in my life. And I think what I was actually looking for was peace. And I think with stability does come peace, but I think peace is much bigger than stability. I think peace is, even in the chaos, you can, you know, stay 10 toes down and like remain calm. Versus with stability, like there is no, I feel like it's just boredom. I find it to be brown and just like straight line, you know, flatlined. I don't really see the positives in stability. And like knowing that something's always going to be there, that means like there is no growth. You understand? And I don't really see that as a positive thing. I don't see it as something that I want personally for me. What I'm asking for is truly peace. So finding the clarity, you know, understanding what it is that you want, what those goals are, is the moral of the story. I've had to dig deep and understand that I can have peace while still developing all of the things that are like buried inside of me. You know, the biggest one now for me is emotional triggers. And this person on the live, they were triggering me, but I've remained like fine. I didn't know whether to spaz or like ignore. I wasn't really like, it was happening so quickly. Like for me, I was trying to process things, but at the same time in my head, I'm just like, none of this is even real. Like this guy's coming at me because I said that I have a child or whatever, and I'm a single mom. First of all, like the whole premise of it, I was joking. He believed that my brother was my son. And then he made all these assumptions based on it. And it was triggering me because like, you don't know what you're talking about at all. And regardless if I am or not, like that doesn't give you the right to talk to anybody about any of that. So that's kind of where I was trying to take it, like kind of educate the person. Like if I am a single mom, why is that so bad for the world? Like that's what he kept trying to make it seem, like that the world was going to hell because there's so many single mothers, and that I would rather carry before marry. And to me, I was just like, you sound uneducated. I don't see any single mother as a failure. Obviously, it is through my own lens. This is my perspective. But for him to have come on here and like try to say something like that, I was just very confused. Like you have some hurt, you have some issues yourself that you got to get through. I realized, you know, like he's really reflecting on himself. Maybe his mom is a single mom and he sees her as a failure, or as, you know, adding more poison into the world or whatever. I don't see it as that. I mean, actually, I recently saw a movie on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it. The guy was a singer, like a rock star, and he was with this girl and they broke up and he became like a really big rock star. She secretly kept the baby. He went back to find her 20 years later, and he had discovered that she had the baby, didn't say anything to him. First of all, that's actually hilarious. But through the perspective of the mother, she made it seem like she didn't want to live that lifestyle with a rock star. She didn't want her child to be in that. I find that to be selfish. She could have tried. Not to say, maybe that was the path that person, the daughter, was supposed to go through, was to not have a father at those times in her life. But I did see the mom to be like really annoying. Like, she annoyed me a lot in the movie. I think that had she given the guy a chance, things could have went differently. The father could have been present in a different kind of way. However, that worked. It's one thing for somebody to not know anything, and it's one thing to know and not do anything about it. So you kind of like took out an opportunity for your child because you were selfish in what you wanted. And, I guess we all have to be selfish in a certain way, but that's for ourselves, not in for somebody else. So if she didn't want to be with him as a man, like as her man, she could have still kept the child there. And the child was able to have a father, not stopping somebody from building that kind of relationship with their child. I think in my case, though, because if if you've watched any of my videos, about my situation, I think mine is completely different because there was a certain kind of deal, I guess, that was made. And I don't think my mom was being selfish in my situation. I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but I genuinely don't feel like I can put myself in her shoes and be with somebody who we come into an agreement about, kids and stuff like that. I'm not going to do what you are telling me to do if this is what I want. I mean, it kind of messes up the father and the kid because it's also a choice for him, but at the same time, I think if it's really like a percentage, I think it's 60-40. I think 60% is the woman's choice because she's the one carrying the baby and stuff. Had I been given up for adoption, that would have been something else too. But it's just people beliefs, and like that's why it's very good to communicate early. If this happens, this is what the route I'm gonna take, and this is what I want, and you allow the other person to tell you theirs. But I don't know, for her to just not want to be in that lifestyle with him, I find it to be selfish. The kid could have seen their parent, the father, 3 months out of the year, or they could have had some kind of arrangement. She didn't have to be with him. And you don't really understand what path, because at the end of the day, the daughter became a singer. So had she had a little bit of guidance early on, she would have been able to get there much quicker or whatever. Maybe her path was to always get there at that time. I don't know. I just found the mother to be very selfish, especially towards the end of the movie. So the guy lives on a cliff, and at that cliff, people go there to like jump. And there was this girl there. She was pregnant. He ended up taking her in, and she ended up having the baby, and he went to the hospital to go like congratulate her. And the mother runs into the father, and she thinks that the stuff that he has in his hands are for her. Selfish, number one. She's like, oh, like, you think this is what's gonna earn my trust back or whatever. First of all, I don't even understand why he apologized to her, because it wasn't his fault. Okay, sure, y'all broke up, whatever, but that was 20 something years ago. You had the opportunity to tell me in these 20 years that I had a child. You did not. So what do you expect an apology for? Sure, there was probably extreme hurt in their relationship, but I'm not sure of anything. Okay, these are my takes. She obviously has the character itself had a lot of hurt and trauma from their relationship, and she kind of probably expected something else. But at the end of the day, the only person that can let go of that is you, because it's a choice to hold on to these things. Sometimes subconsciously we're doing it and we don't even know, but it's there. And it's like, try to make a better effort for yourself. Just because the person who has hurt me 1,000 times comes to me and tells me sorry, that does absolutely nothing for me. Like, at all. Sure, that person is taking accountability for their actions, but the word sorry means nothing to me. Like, truly, it means nothing. Unless I'm walking in the street and you bump me, like, I'm not going to take it as so offensively if you apologize. But if you don't, like, yeah, sure. we'll have a problem. But I don't think 20 years or whatever hurt they went through in their relationship and him following his dreams, does he need to apologize? Had he cheated on you, beat on you, something like that, sure. I mean, and at that point, after 20 years, I don't even think you'd want to talk to that person or want anything from that person because you've already given it to yourself. I think she chose the easier route, which is easier to be alone than it is to be with somebody else. You go through a lot of issues with other people. You have to constantly grow. You got to constantly do these things. And when you're by yourself, you don't have any of those responsibilities and you can be alone. That's why I think for so long it's been really hard for me to realize that just because I want to hang out with people or just because I want to be with other people, and not as a distraction, because I'm not talking about distracting myself from what I got to do, but that is harder than being alone. My energy and who I am as a person thrives with being with other people. I genuinely love being with other people. Did I do a lot of things in avoiding certain things in my life? Yes. Did I hang out with people when I should have been doing my homework, for example? Yes. But ultimately, I think that we all need people, and I can't see myself living a life of just no one, because I do crave growth. I crave self-improvement. I crave being better than I was yesterday, being better than I was 10 minutes ago. There is always something to reach. And I know that is ambition, and that can, you can get to a point where it's not really healthy. You're constantly wanting more and nothing is ever enough. I think that that's different for each scenario. If you want to be a millionaire and then you become a millionaire, you want to be a billionaire, like, by all means, do what you got to do. But as long as you're not trying to fill a void. The slogan for Colorless Oranges is nurture the void. I am here to provide some kind of knowledge, some kind of education for you to fill that emptiness. That if you're here, I assume that you have had that, because I have had that. Finding the things to fulfill that void that actually stay there, because I feel like for a long time, the void that I had, it was just like a cup that was open on both sides. So as I was filling it, it had like a slow leak. Okay. It was never to a point where like true happiness, true fulfillment, true enlightenment, like nothing ever really stuck. There were many things that would go in the cup, but it wouldn't stay. And I think that that's what kept me wanting more, or kept me stagnant at the same time, because the stagnancy kind of represented stability. And I thought that this is how things were going to be forever. And that's just not how things work for me. I keep saying for me because I don't want to hear, oh, but that's not, that's your opinion. That's your perspective. For me, I've noticed stagnancy and not wanting to do certain things, not wanting to go certain places, not wanting to see certain or talk about whatever. I was staying in the same place, hoping that that one thing would stay good, and if I had done this like this every single day, then things would just stay the same and I could, grasp that happiness or that fake fulfillment. Truly, though, it just kept on falling out. My relationship, we would break up. I would argue with certain people. Certain things just weren't feeling right. And I think that that's, the universe's way of letting you know, like, that's not where you're supposed to be. You'll never be able to find peace somewhere that you're not supposed to be at. And I think that that's very important. I tried to find peace, and I tried to make stability be peace, and it wasn't. I tried to remain a certain kind of way to keep the peace. That didn't help. And I don't know, like, that to me is just very important. Trying to find the balance of keeping all of these things happening to me while also remaining the same, but also growing in a way. I don't think that what she did, in the movie was the best way. I do forgive my parents and the people who have hurt me, or I've done things to their betterment that weren't for my betterment, because that is just a reflection of you. As it was a reflection of me, it showed me who I am. It showed me where I needed to improve. And here I am. I'm ready for the next chapter, the next things to come at my life. It's easy for me to play victim. I feel like it's easy, and that's why I never wanted to come on this podcast and act as if I was a victim and hold all these things that have hurt me or have changed me. I think a lot of it is like a domino effect. You know, once you realize, oh, like this person did this to me, you kind of see the pattern that like everybody else has done this to you. You know, that to me is the hardest part of it all, is realizing that I have gone through the same thing over and over and over and not been able to realize or not been able to make actual change that was going to like permanently take me out of this situation. I always expected an apology from certain people who hurt me. That was my way of expressing my sorry to somebody else. It was through an apology and my actions as well, trying not to do that thing again and again and again. I think forgiveness comes within. I think that is even said in the Bible. I don't know. If it is, though, they're right on track. I think there's nothing that he could do to actually repair the hurt that he did to her in the beginning. And it's either you forgive and move on from the situation, or you just don't. I think that that's also a really big part of self-discipline, is knowing when to move on, knowing when something isn't working for you, keeping yourself in check. Like, there isn't a fairy that's keeping all of this stuff written down for you. Like, you have to do it yourself. I try my hardest to keep note of things, but I'm really the kind of person that just goes with a lot of the stuff that happens around me. It's until I process that I begin to like put things together, categorize things. That's why I like astrology, because it helps me like categorize people and stuff like that. When I do that, when I categorize, is when I then realize, oh, this person did that to me too. Sometimes I'm quick with it and I can peep it from a mile away, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm not able to help myself from a certain situation. The first like awakening or like light bulb that went on in my head during a lot of these situations was, I can't expect other people to make me happy. I have to truly make myself happy. I did have that expectation on a lot of people. And it's because I didn't really understand what happiness was. And I was giving away a lot of my energy to other people, for other people. And I thought that that's what, you know, was good. I thought me being so martyrish, all of me to somebody else, would actually get me somewhere. Like in feeling fulfilled. And I realized it didn't. You know, I was doing all of these things and I was like hurting myself at the same time. I wasn't actually feeling fulfilled. Like I said, like this cup was empty. So I was just pouring out the nothing that I had, and whatever was coming back in was slowly falling out. I had to like take a pottery class and actually build a ceramic cup that wasn't going to break, a steel cup that wasn't going to break, like something that was going to be for me. And so whatever came its way could either be spat back out or actually, you know, held tightly. And Inside Out, I really like the way that they show like who, I don't remember her name. I think it's Anna. How she really, like what makes her her. And it was like this line, like this energy thing that was like full of all of these memories and all of these things that made her the core of her. I've had to rebuild mine so many times. And I think that that's great, you know, picking and choosing the things, truly being able to like customize my own life, like make my own stuff be mine. You know, not because my mom told me this, not because my grandmother showed me this, not because my dad said that, just because this is what I believe. I started toning out the voices of everyone else, you know, putting myself in a place where another person's opinion didn't sway mine, didn't hurt me, didn't become my own. I basically started nurturing my void. I know from experience that the void feels extremely deep. It's all consuming. It's everything and nothing at the same time. I remember last year, I think it was like around April. It was like intense for me, extremely intense. I felt worthless. I felt, what am I doing? And la 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 la. What got me out of that was knowing that the things that I do for other people isn't what makes me. I felt like because I couldn't do certain things for certain people, that I was just useless. Once I took that chip off of my shoulder and out of my like little, you know, cup, I was able to start like really moving things along, and not really allowing that other voice to like tell me so much stuff too, because it was really that voice of like, oh, you're not enough, you're not doing anything, who are you, why do you deserve this, like all of this imposter syndrome. I didn't really know how to combat that, because in my mind, you know, I'm thinking all my thoughts are like real and this is true things. You know, I am nobody, I have nothing, I'm nothing, all of this stuff. That is not true. I had to get another voice that was as strong as that one to combat this one, and they would fight. Mentally, I would be fighting. Like, I could see it in my head, like, no, like, you don't know what you're talking about. And it wasn't even that I was combating it at itself with like something else. You know, if this person told me like, oh, if this in my head, that voice in my head would tell me, you can't even do this for somebody else, I would tell it, well, I don't need to do something for somebody else. I see a lot of people when they argue with one another, even me, like the other day when I was like, oh, I do have a car. Like, what now? Yes, it does shut that person up, because like, you know, even in my life, I don't have a son, I'm not a single mother, these aren't my beliefs or whatever. It doesn't even matter, because that's your belief. Like, getting down to the actual core of that issue, it doesn't even matter. Like, when I would argue and oh, you're not enough, you can't do this for somebody else, I don't need to do something for somebody else, I could have also said, oh, but I do this and this and that for this person. That wouldn't have helped this argument. That argument would have just kept growing and growing and growing, because, oh, you didn't do this for that person, you didn't do that for that person. But simply just saying, I don't need to do something for that person, kind of took this voice and put it away. And it just kept going away and going away and going away. It does come out sometimes here and there, you know, when I am feeling a little bit of, I don't know how I'm going to do what I need to do. It's like, oh, well, you don't even need to do that. Why should you be able to do that? Who are you to get that? And it's like, not that I have to remind myself of all these things or whatever, but it's just like, I don't need to listen to that. Genuinely. Like, it wasn't even about me not having a car. I can not have a car and still have an opinion. Whether my opinion is valuable to that person or not, that's on them. But point blank period, whether I had a car or not, I was still entitled to my opinion. It had nothing to do whether I had a car or not. Like, simply stating, I don't need to combat you with the same thing, because now we're just doing the same thing back to back. It's like truly like the why of something. You know, I've always been a why kid. I would always ask mom, why is this? Why is that? What? Like I would talk so much. So much. I would question everything. Why is this like this? How is this like this? And I think that is what has gained a lot of respect from my mom, to my mom, is that I'm able to ask her, why is she doing certain things a certain kind of way? And she can actually explain to me. Because a lot of the times I would catch adults asking people to do certain things, or asking children, however, and their why is not there. And I think if the why is not there, everything crumbles. If you don't have a reason for this, it will not be sustainable. You will not be able to continue this. You know, in your self-discipline journey, figure out why it is that you want these things. And that is what will keep you going. On my vlogs and in my personal channel, my curly hair journey, all of that stuff, you know, the why was always fluctuating. It was never solidified. Here on Colorless Oranges, I am 100,000 billion% strong and solidified in why I'm doing what I'm doing. If you do not have a why, everything will collapse. That is how I was able to collapse that voice, take that voice and throw it out of my head, because I figured out why it was doing that, where it was coming from. It was truly coming from the perception of others and what they thought and what their opinions were on me and all of that stuff, which has nothing to do with me, and I shouldn't care about it. And that's where I've been on this other journey of, I am me. These are the things that I feel make me up. And however it is that I keep going has nothing to do with that negative voice. And I actually enjoy now reading back my journal and seeing the negative voice like kind of take lead and talk about certain things, because I'm just like, wow, like the growth that I have now. And like those negative things actually actually come and show me where I need to improve. And how the grind just never stops. And I don't want to be like, oh, wake up at 6 a.m., blah, blah, blah. That's not what I mean by like grind never stops. But it's like, genuinely, I feel like there should always be constant growth. You shouldn't be where you were last year. And if you are, you've been distracting yourself this entire time. And that saddens me. But it's like, take a second, look in the mirror, figure out what has been going on, what it is, how it is that you're going to fix it, and go on about your life. Keep on growing. The goal is never to not receive another lesson, or be able to give another testimony. The world is about falling and getting back up, no matter how many times that is. I would rather be flatlined than have a flat line. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather be 6 feet than to keep this the stagnancy, the same mellow thing. Because it's like, what is the point of it? What would be the point if you were born a billionaire who never had a problem in your life and everything is great and amazing? You wouldn't even know that was great or amazing. Genuinely, you would never know until that one bad thing happened to you. And then you have to constantly build and build and build and build again. However that works for you. I love the lessons. It really was the pain part that kind of hurt. You know, I'm sure like mothers, they love their children, but it's the carrying them and the delivery part that kind of, you know, pushes them back. Or maybe even financial problems or stuff like that. But I'm sure that they would continue to have children, you know, if that's how you feel. But it's like these certain things that kind of prevent you from doing that one thing that you actually want. And it's like, well, those are the things that are actually going to make you better. Actually grow the person who you are inside. Those parts that, you know, bring out the hurt in you and have the emotional triggers is what is going to propel you to the next part of your life. Being able to get through that. You know, I think it's extremely difficult to be a parent. I'm not here to say anything about that. But I think it's also difficult as a woman to like give birth. So, you know, it kind of shows you like what your life is going to be like after having the child. Once you do give birth, like, you know, that was hard and there might be other things that are hard, but you can get through it just like you got through this one. My goal is to not stay stagnant. My goal is to grow. And I think I do a good job of that without, you know, actually putting so many words to it, because I didn't really have the exact words to define how I've been in all my life, you know. Constantly looking for growth. Not that I'm looking for new always, because I don't care about like the new Jordan that comes out anymore. I'm not in that space. I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about, you know, just a new chapter of my life and enjoying and appreciating where I am now in the moment, but also able to fully be okay with moving on to the next one. I started off by never regretting anything in my life. I don't regret things in my life. To now being comfortable in where I am and allowing the things to happen. They happen, they don't. It is what it is. I am no longer forcing certain things to happen. Whereas I did before, I kind of like, this is what needs to be here. You need this. I need that. La, la, la. No. I am no longer forcing my expectations on other people, because that was a really big one, you know. I would just be like, why are you not growing? Because, you know, those are the expectations that I have for myself. I believe that it is very important to evolve. Like, that is huge to me. I don't really relate to those who don't. I think that's where like a big disconnect comes with a lot of us. And it's really not no beef, but I know when things need to be closed, when something needs to end. The biggest part of all of that was really not accepting people for who they were. I kind of had like these expectations, and had they not met them, I would not accept them. But I've seen it through a different lens. I can be labeled whatever for not accepting people who do not grow. That is just me in my life. Whether you agree with it or not, that's your perspective. We might have the same one, and we might believe that everybody in our life should want to do better. But accepting others where I'm at now, it's not about what you're doing for me or yourself, whatever, all of that. It's about your energy to me. How that energy of who you are is combined with mine. And if I'm constantly feeling, drained with you or upset and annoyed with you, great, you're probably triggering something in me that I need to get better. But at the same time, why are you triggering me? What is actually going on between us? What is actually going on with you that's actually bothering me? And I've realized a lot of the things were like, I just didn't know how to let go of certain people. And so I would try to accept them and whatever, and I didn't fully accept them. So when they would continue, like, do the same thing over and over and over, it would bother me. But it's like, babe, let them go. Walk away. You don't have to accept them. You don't have to stay with anybody for any reason. If you don't want to talk to them, you don't have to talk to them. If you want to talk to them, talk to them. Simple. I am going to end today's episode there. Don't forget to nurture your void today. I will see you and you in the back soon. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm.